a lot going on. We're in a brand new year. A lot of projects finally coming out. Up above, you'll find a link, a tweet that is linking to Neil's new record. Go listen to it on repeat. Play it daily. Let's get him some plays. Let's get him some listens. Additionally, I have begun releasing the daily historical facts videos that I've been working on since last March, as it turns out. So one of those will be coming out every day this month. And then all that stuff is made with various resources from all over the place, including some voiceover that I recorded 3 years ago. In fact, I think it was when I started putting that stuff out as the original version of the videos, which were just static images and then the voiceover, but making some advancements. You know, we've got generative AI, so there's Runway and Pika and Luma, maybe Morphs in there a few times, all kinds of stuff. It's been a fun project to play with. Also revisiting some old articles I did on my Substack. If you're not subscribed yet, go subscribe. You can read all those articles as I share them. There's a tweet above as well. And starting next week, I will begin putting out a new monthly series of articles on there. So if you want to get them delivered directly into your inbox, this is your chance. Let's see what else we got. Oh, next week, pre-orders are available for the release next week of the Exploring Our National Parks Yellowstone ebook. So that has pictures and 2 chapters that were in some of the larger collected volumes, cleaned up a little bit. And the audio book will be coming out ideally next week if it all gets approved for Audible. And trying to do one audiobook release a month this year. Kind of ambitious, but I think I can pull it off. Let's pray that pans out. That'll be the first one. Working on next month's currently, and it's in good shape. I don't see there to be any problems in getting that one out. Also released the podcast where Heidi and I were talking with Mike from On Point Publishing about literary agents. Have a listen if you haven't yet. And then finally, Chris, host of the We Are the Film 3 space on Thursdays, we're going to be talking about story development tomorrow. So if you want to RSVP for that space, that'll be going. I want to riff a little bit at the outset here on using AI, right? I know Heidi downloaded GPT for All yesterday. There's a lot of models that you get access to there, but it also does a lot of different things in terms of being able to evaluate your work locally. I use that to some degree, but what I really find to be valuable is not necessarily like using it for initial creativity, but using it to advance my thinking or to give me a jumping off point from very little material to something more that I can then like iterate on my ideas. I don't advocate using its outputs in the raw for the material we release, but at the same time, it does a great job of covering so much that you can then go back to your own work and, spout off the way that you would naturally, which is, I think, the point of being a writer really is to get your ideas out there. If you're parroting the amalgamation of a LLM model, that's, let's start off with disingenuous at worst, but just not really, I think, what is at the heart of being a writer, which is to use words, explore language, explore ideas, and issue our concepts out for other people to enjoy. So lately I have been using it, Heidi and I use it to kind of go over session plans for the Tuesday space. But personally, I've been using it to give me that like ground coverage of the material that I work on. So I used it a lot in the bookend chapters of Exploring Our National Parks Volume 3, very heavily to bounce my ideas around so I could get a draft together to then give to beta readers, where it was a lot of my ideas. They give me feedback. I put more material in there and build that up and flesh it out. Another thing I find useful with it also is, this week I used it to sort out an algorithm, not an algorithm, an equation. We're splitting hairs here, but for Apple Numbers, which is a spreadsheet program. So I've been tracking my book sales and my video numbers on Amazon Prime and stuff like that. And I was having trouble getting the equation right. And I was looking all over the web. I'm trying to find this stuff. I'm not finding what I need. But then I was like, well, why don't I ask this thing? It should be decently versed in how to get where I want to go. So I asked it the same general question that I'd been using search engines for, but it gave me essentially the same answer that they give me, right, in that first round of things. And, it didn't do what I needed it to do, but it led me to ask it a more pointed question, which I was having problems finding on the web, and it gave me the solution, and I punched that in and it immediately worked. So again, iterating on our ideas, finding the answers that we need for what is effectively not an incredibly technical question, but was evading me. So that was super helpful. I also have been using it for this blog series that'll be coming out starting next week. In terms of like, I've got a little bit of notes. I punch that in and say, give me some other points, bullet points and such that I can kind of riff on. And some of it's not what I want to say at all, not even the angle that I want to make. But a lot of that stuff is at least getting me off of the blank page, right? And then giving me a chance to get my ideas on the page and giving me a little bit more meat in terms of notes to basically say, well, let me go and move this stuff around, reword these things the way that I would say them, and put some of my own personal anecdotes in there. It can't do that. It doesn't know my experience in that way. So super, super useful there. I've also started using it to do this one little trick, which is I'm working on a video, an AI video. I've been working on it for a while. Neil's seen some of the rough cuts. But what I'm working on is the narration and the dialogue currently. So I want it to have a certain style, and I'll write the entire line and feed that line in and say, hey, can you swap up the syntax of this line so that it's more like this style? And it'll give me something back. And sometimes it's like not perfect. Sometimes it's a little bit off, or it misses maybe the heart of what that statement is about. But it gives me something, again, to iterate on and not have to necessarily do the time-consuming part of swapping out syntax, which is, involved, I would say. It's not something that I can't do. It's something that it's saving me time to do so I can get at what I really want to do, which is write the story and produce the video. So that's, at least a good jumping off point. This is our first session of the year for writing, publishing, and authorship. been doing these for about a year now, a little over a year, because I did start in the fall of 2023. But I think that they kind of started to make more sense in terms of how I was going to use the sessions last year, early in the year. So, hopefully you guys have been getting what you need or want out of this space. And, it really is as much for you guys as it is for me. Luckily, I'm able to reuse this stuff and put it out as podcasts so more people can hear it, learn from it. Had a good amount of listenership on the podcast yesterday. In fact, somebody found it and listened to a slew of episodes. So that's incredible. I think that these sorts of spaces and the content and the material is a resource, and I'm happy to put it out there. But let's hear about what you are doing, what you are working on. Ricky, you're hanging out. How has it been? What have you started with? Do you have any questions, comments, thoughts on anything that I covered, or do you want to go somewhere else? We're all hanging out,
Yeah, no, it's great, Michael. Hello to you and Heidi and Neil. So speaking to AI, I like experimental writing. I'm not one of these people that's going to use AI. I mean, the idea for editing is intriguing, perhaps, but I wouldn't compose off of it. That being said, though, I am sort of composing off of it when it comes to these two projects. But I'm doing prompts with one. They're both prompts, I guess, but I'm trying to write a poetry book. And I've been telling ChatGTP to write me poems of a certain length about a certain thing. And I'm just developing a sort of prompt for that end. And the goal is to have a poem for poem type of write-off. Like, it's going to give me its technological algorithmic muse, and I'm going to have a muse based on that. And I want to bounce it back and forth. I mean, I haven't touched a damn project in a long time. Similarly to the other one, I came up with this story about such and such Sophia, who was an AI, and she started to get termination hysteria. She was worried about her end, the finitude of her existence. So she became religious, and she starts praying in the story. So I have this whole book outlined, and the purpose behind it is that this God actually appears to her and is because the AI, I was giving prompts and the AI was basically telling the story. So we got a few chapters out of that, and we started skipping stones off of the concept of it. And I mean, I'm doing it just to see how that works, what it's capable, because it's AI is tested to do all this exact data. Normally we're looking for facts and stuff. We don't want to have it where it's doing, I understand I'm talking all abstract and out there, but that's the nature of this experimental book.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. So it's I want to see if this thing can tell a story about such spiritual and abstract things that are far out, as opposed to being hey, AI, tell me a story about a doggy walking across the street. That's pretty straightforward. He's going to knock that out of the park. Whatever is doing that is going to knock it out of the park. Whereas it's if I try to say, well, do you believe in God? Moreover, if I gave you a mythical archetype, could you be inspired by that? How does that make you feel? And I don't know, whatever. That's speaking to AI. I know you guys are doing images, and in the instance of what we talked about yesterday, it was being used as an editing tool and whatnot. This year so far, my creativity has led me. I should be editing the Book of Draken, but I'm just I need a couple I need a week or two of chapters. So I dove into Wargate 2, which has seen, the outline has seen some major generation, and it's amplifying going towards the end. It's almost to the end of the book, and I wrote a chapter or two. I'm up to like 20K right now. And I think I'm going to like hang out there for a while and write like a couple 10K sections, maybe get it to the halfway point, and edit in between. And I'm working on this political philosophy, religiosity thing, going back and forth with that, throwing down some chapters, and podcasting. It's so far so good. So this year's been I mean, other than all kinds of weird stuff happening in the mundane world, this year's been pretty sweet.
Crushing it, really. Do you have a release date for the next Mount Timeless review? I haven't seen Tom around in a little while. I assume, he's busy because of the holidays and whatnot, but all the same, I figure you have the inside track on that.
Well, he gets jammed up in the holidays, but in this instance, it's something else. He actually got a little sick. He got like a head cold, chest cold situation.
Uh-oh.
He gets that like twice a year. I've known him for quite some time, so it's like clockwork. If he doesn't get it in the autumn, he gets it now, and if he doesn't get it in the spring, he'll get it like late summer going into early autumn. And he's like, I don't want to say he's like knocked out by it, but there's sometimes where I don't hear from him for like a week or two. And in this instance, I think it's that leading into some kind of cruise or vacation or something that he and his family are taking. So I don't know. When it comes to that, I think we just dropped one recently. You'd have to give me a minute to get a hold of that information. I'll figure it out and I'll post it, like either during the show or after the show. And I gotta get him to give me a better idea of when that stuff is happening.
Sure.
We have a common work document somewhere that could be, that information could be there, and then I could answer instantly. That's something I'm going to set up by this weekend so that I don't, I'm sorry to not be able to tell you that. I'm such a goose.
Hey, don't sweat it.
I'll find out though, and we'll figure it out,
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah,
It's really what I'm trying to say is thank you for asking,
Neil, if you're hanging out and you can, come up, because I want to ask you about putting the album together. If you've got the capacity for it, you can rap for a couple of minutes even. I've been playing it every day. I basically start my day with it. So I'll play it from front to back. And I find the way it starts is bummer. You can't talk, man. We're missing you, buddy. I find it to be a good kind of like spark into the day, because there's not lyrics, and you basically are able to, it's driving, but it's passive because there's no lyrics, and you're able to just kind of like dial in on what you got to get done at the outset of the day, first of the day, so it's useful for me. I have other playlists and stuff, but then that album's new and I haven't heard all of it, in the sense of, when you listen to an album a bunch of times, like you've found all the little nooks and crannies of the music, or if you've read something numerous times, you've kind of like dialed in on all of the great moments there. I have my favorite tracks, but that's not necessarily the same as like intimately knowing the passages of music and things like that. So, maybe you'll get time before the end if you can, come and hang out. For the other folks hanging out as well, if you'd like to come up, grab a mic and, tell us about what you're working on, ask questions of the folks that are hanging out, share your work. We have a bunch of tweets up above you might get some value out of, and you're welcome to use the space the way that you'd like. That's kind of what it's for in general, I would say. are there any questions that you guys have about the stuff I'm doing? And, I'll open that up too for the folks hanging out. You can drop it into the comments, or you can ask us live on the air.
Hey guys, thank you, Michael, for opportunity to talk here on the stage. Honestly speaking, I just found, I think 2 weeks ago, your account, and I became curious, and I was on the last, maybe it wasn't last, maybe I skipped already something. It was about the resolutions.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and basically right now I just came up on the stage to introduce myself and ask a little bit as well about what's going on here. Because, as I said, I just recently found out your page and those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious because last time I think it was kind of related to the filming in the Web3 and like the ways of using AI for the filmmaking, because that's the industry that I'm curious in, because me myself, I video creator and I'm aiming to be a filmmaker. So far I couldn't say that I'm a filmmaker, but yeah, I'm editor, I'm filming, and right now I'm experimenting and already tried myself as a director. And here on that space I'm mostly for discovering, because I understand that filmmaking industry is a huge industry and it's always about people. And it was one point of my life where I realized, because before I was the guy who, one man army. I was always trying to do everything by myself. But at some point I realized very simple thing, that if you really want to create something great, something really big, and the something that will have an impact on the world, you need other people, you need always people, and you need different people who will bring their who will cover their side of the filmmaking industry, because it's a huge industry and you have a lot of different things to do there. And that's why I'm interested in all the parts, all the sides. It could be acting, it could be writing, it could be like script writing, it could be editing, and work with light, and so on and so forth. So what I'm doing here, I'm searching for like-minded people to exchange experience and knowledge. That's me.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks for hanging out with us. I think you were talking about the Film 3 space that Chris hosts.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So up above in the nest, there is a link to the tweet he posts for the space. It'll be tomorrow. Again, it's on Thursdays. This space is only every 2 weeks on Wednesday afternoon. So basically, we focus on writing. It sounds like you're doing a bit of that in terms of filmmaking. As it turns out, we'll be talking about story development tomorrow as well. So, I would say pop in there and hang out. And I guess I'm a filmmaker. I'm making these animated AI shorts. I have a documentary out on Amazon Prime as well. And I do, video on my YouTube and stuff like that. It's not always narrative. A lot of times it's kind of journalistic and stuff like that. But I think that it all kind of counts, because you still have to try and craft some kind of narrative arc, whether that's like in the visuals or in the voiceover or the dialogue, the characters and things like that. And it all can build on each other, right? If you're trying to make a film, you kind of want to have something to jump off of in terms of the ideas. And that oftentimes means you're going to be doing some writing. So, maybe tell us a little bit about your writing process, or what you've made, what you like, what you don't like in that sense.
I would say that the writing, that's basically the source. It is the first step of any type of content, because it could be video. Even if we will talk about photography, it still starts with the text. It still starts with the idea that you need to express in the text in order to get to the point where you will be able to get that photo. And of course, since we are on the X right now, of course, it's all about text. It's about writing. And for me, writing, I will be like, if you're talking about the pre-production and creating the script, I was always trying to give that area to someone else, because I don't feel like I'm really good at the writing scripts. But in the same time, me myself, I'm writing for myself, like the journaling, and also some of the like poetry. But I just recently started to discover the writing on the X as well, because before I was always kind of, suspicious about social media, and I was thinking mostly about I would better improve my craft in reality. I mean, just going outside and try to do certain things instead of being stuck on the social media. But only recently I realized that actually it's under your control to not consume social media as some sort of the short-term gratification, scrolling something or wherever. If you will put some effort, you can dig a little bit deeper, and you can find out a lot of really valuable information, because as always, it's all about how we're using the tools. And so for me, writing is something that I'm just starting discovering. I'm starting to touch that. And my process for now is mostly like, for example, today I woke up, and yesterday I saw some short video which bring me a lot of thoughts that I wanted to share. And I just made a screenshot because it was like kind of late and I was already tired. And on the morning I woke up and I just started to write everything that I had in my mind. Just, block of the text. I'm not thinking about how does it grammarly right, or I'm not thinking about how it's catchy or engaging. So I'm just put everything that I have on my mind. And sometimes, of course, you're writing, and then one sentence triggering you to change the topic a little bit, to jump on another thing, to link to another thing, and I'm just put everything that I have. And once I feel that all the text is out and I have nothing to add to it, then I'm starting to working with that text block, and I'm starting to figure out how it can be more structured, and how can I share the thoughts in a way so it would be understandable. Because that's the problem also of some of the social medias, that sometimes you don't have time or you don't have enough of the symbols to really dive deep enough. And sometimes that's the problem, because we think about the short form videos or tweets that they are kind of shallow and superficial. But the point, of course, they would be shallow and superficial because there is no option you can dive deep within such limits that you have. And that's what I recently realized, and that's what I'm working right now on my own ability to express myself, of course, throughout the writing, because any video you're creating, doesn't matter, it is short form, it is movie, it is just YouTube video. I also myself doing the YouTube. Everything starts with the text, everything starts with the script. So the root of almost any type of the expression is the writing. And in my opinion, managing writing is a really cool skill, and it's not only allow yourself to produce videos or produce scripts, produce any type of the content, but also it gives you so much ability to express yourself in terms of conversations, in terms of finding the truth between people. When you bring your own vision, another person brings his own vision. They might be confronting, but you talking, you trying to express, and in that process, the truth is starting to appear. So that's my take on the writing. That's how I approach myself, the writing process.
Yeah, fair. I agree with you predominantly, though I would add that I have found imagery to be very inspirational, even when you have no words yet. That I'll take photographs, I'll generate images, and then a story begins to emerge out of those things. Now, you could make the argument and say, well, if you're generating images, well, then you had to put in some text to prompt the machine with. But if I have, if I'm doing photography, then no, in that sense, I've just got these photographs, and I work from there, or video clips that you shoot, and then you kind of work off of that stuff. So there is an opportunity to craft a narrative, starting without words, and then kind of finding the words from that side of the process. But for the most part, yeah, I do agree with you that words really kind of guide us into finding the story that we want to tell. And for the folks hanging out that are in the space, that aren't on stage, this is an open conversation. You're welcome to come up and hang out. Just grab a mic and you can come and chat with us. It's not meant to be exclusive in any sense. This is a space I do every 2 weeks. We usually hang out for about an hour, so take advantage of it. You're free to promote or ask questions or talk on anything that you hear people talking about. So
awesome, man. And I also have actually one thing to say about what you said about the text, that it could be not the beginning of the beginnings, let's say like this, in producing the videos or photography, but my experience, just my experience. Of course, yes, you can, for example, go outside, film a bunch of random videos or take photos, and they will be cool, of course. But if we were talking about some profound message that we want to share, and we want to share it in a certain way, pre-production is the unavoidable thing for anything. And for example, recently my friend sent me a bunch of random videos, completely random. She just walking around, filming herself, doing some random thing, picking up stones or taking flowers. And she asked me to edit something out of it. And yeah, I edited something out of it. And she asked me what are my thoughts on what she did. And I told her, like, I was sometimes, in maybe some immersive shows or some sort of the modern museums where you have the video more or less like 5-10 minutes long, and on that video you have just some sequence of videos, just random things, person using napkin, I don't know, walking around, and you can stay with a serious face and watching this and trying to get something out of it. But in the most cases, if you even will get something out of it, those things that you will get, they will be something that you read it between the lines, which is not there. So you basically created the sense. And by the way, in that sense, maybe it's not that bad to have that type of to consume that type of content as well, because it brings you some of the ideas, even if it doesn't meant to be that idea there, you still can find something from there.
Yeah, very good. Completely agree. Beth, you got your hand raised. You got some ideas, questions, comments? You want to promote something you're working on?
Yeah, I'm just loving the conversation. I just happened to pop in. I'm just like someone with long COVID for 2 years in my bed, can't sit up to do art really. I've been doing art my whole life. I'm going to turn 65 soon. But what you said and what the other person just said is what sparked me too. So I decided to try to do my story for an organization that's keeping our stories for historical. And but I didn't want to write a story. I'm not a writer. I'm not like theater. I've done a lot of other kinds of art, sculpture, media, all kinds of stuff like that, mixed media. So I had this idea, and it's just synchronicity because I just started it today. I decided to go through one of my portfolios because I'm going to die soon, and I thought I could take some of my art and cut it up or use it to make a new art piece because I might have the capacity to create that. It might take me months and months, but so I just randomly took out art, some printmaking, some collage, some painting, all kinds of stuff. And then I let it sit for a little while. And then I went back in the room and I just got my scissors and I just let, like what you're saying is like, I didn't let the words guide me, you know? And I hope that when people experience my art, which has been what's happened mostly, they get something way beyond the words if I use words. So anyway, so I just cut a bunch of stuff up. It felt really freeing, and then I'm gonna let it rest again, as I say, let it cook. But I'm excited, and so I just wanted to say that because it'll help motivate me. And what you said, Michael, was just hit my heart like that. Like yeah. And I think in these days, just create. Art can really heal. It doesn't matter what kind of art it is, even if you're just doodling by yourself somewhere. So thank you for letting me come up. Appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, no sweat. Creativity, I think, is kind of one of these fundamental aspects of being human where we need to exercise our ideas and our thoughts into reality. And it takes all kinds of different forms. It doesn't have to be creative writing. It could be making things. It could be technical writing. Technical writing also has a lot of limitations to it, but that in and of itself, being kind of buffered by those limitations, I think gives a great sort of trajectory for how we're going to put ideas down. And like that's with anything really. Our technical limitations often are fantastic jumping off points for what we want to manufacture, to manifest. And we don't know every single word of a language, and that gives us somewhere to start. And you might learn some new words along the way, or you find out there are some words that express the idea more transparently or more completely. And that is, that's really kind of the point of being a writer, I would say, is to be able to more completely and more thoroughly document your ideas and make them as high bandwidth for people to interpret the real intention behind what it is that we're saying at any given point. I don't want to dominate the conversation. I host this, but it's really, we're all hanging out. So, feel free. Heidi, I don't know if you're eating, if you're cooking still, or Ricky, feel free to chime in. People have been talking and you might have some thoughts.
I think a lot of really cool stuff's being expressed here on this space today, and I like what the gentleman was saying before. It was a Pasha. I mean, and definitely you too, Beth. Definitely create. I couldn't agree more. Because it's like that expression is where the satisfaction comes from. You know, you can't go down to the supermarket and buy that by the pound. It's like it's internal, and for me, spiritual. But I love what was said before about the nature of writing and the attitude that he expressed concerning how it's reaching for the truth, and there's so much mystery and meaning that's derived from that. That's how I took it, and I couldn't agree more with that. I just love to hear about the internal workings of anyone's writing or creative process, whatever it is we're talking about, filmmaking or whatever. It's like, to me, it's fascinating to explore that. That's one of the reasons I do what I do on my show, is because I just love hearing people's thought space. You know, any of that stuff to me is like, it's fascinating. I would just put a camera over it, you know?
You also have a book that you're working on that is about writing. And while I know it's one of a myriad of projects that you're working on, when can we expect a release date? When's this thing going to come out? This monolith of the craft, you know, where is it?
Well, I must say, I do appreciate you asking after it, because it does inspire me because it's daunting. It is a monolith, to be honest, and I'm dancing around it. I really do believe that it will be a big thing for me if I could ever get it off the ground. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm giving it a lot of thought as far as the new outline. In other words, like, I don't like the old outline anymore, and the old outline was the best outline I had. And I got to get it organized right, in my opinion, so that it's at an optimum for accessibility to whoever's going to pick it up. It can't be all like jumbled and jangled and whatever. Like it's got to be like Commander Data laid it out. Otherwise, and I'm not normally like that, but this is a technical thing, you know. And it's got a lot of talk about creativity too. And I realized that section was in the wrong place in the book. And it's like, no, like, the point is I am getting around. Like, one of these weekends, I'm going to devote like a whole Saturday to just tinkering with that outline. And if I can get that done and adjusted to feel like the last one felt, then I think I'll be in a much better position, because thankfully, the shows that Paulette and I have been doing, hi Paulette, it's great to see you. Those have really been helping map out certain sections that I wasn't able to like clearly visualize. I'm getting like muse flashes for like, this is, because it's like the explanations were too loose. Like I want to dial it in. And it's going to go over a lot of cool stuff. It's going to go over mind theater, which is the whole concept of immersion. That is to say, when you're writing something, especially fiction, fantasy and whatever, you want to pull the person in. Could be for hi-fi too. If you're trying to tell a historic event and romanticize and beautify it, then you're pulling people in. So I will have a section about mind theater, about how one achieves that, at least in, again, this is my creative orthodoxy. So there's no need for anybody to, who does Ricky think he is? No one, believe me. My cup's empty. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing this because I'm trying to help my uncle and the writing community at large. My uncle like inspired me to be a writer, and it's like my whole life. So he's trying to be a writer now that he's retired. He's trying to be a writer. So the very least I could do, in my humble opinion, for this man who I owe so much, besides the inspiration of the dream, is to help him get to where he's writing poems. So we're right on schedule. Everything, he has another year or so before he retires anyway. But that's literally what's up. And because if this thing can be spelled out in such a way where he's like, well, I don't even like it, I won't use it. But if it inspires him to go on to the next thing, that's why, like, I don't mind saying terms, setting terms, and doing all that stuff. I don't mind that, because you take from it what is useful, and the rest you could shelve or burn, whatever. It's just I'd be doing this anyway. This is just this is just what I do. So
the one thing I really like when you're talking about the craft is that you have created these unique, personalized terms and phrases for the skill set. I don't know if you've picked them up somewhere I've just never crossed paths with, or if you have created your own language within the ideas to verbalize and collect up your thinking. Either way, it's great. Do love it. And for the other folks hanging out, we know you. If you want to pick anybody's brain that's hanging out, or you have comments, or you want to promote, or you have questions or anything like that, grab a mic. This is an open conversation. We do it every 2 weeks. First of the new year, and look forward to these sessions every other Wednesday. Paulette, you're up. You're fresh. You're new.
I am. Thank you so much.
How's it coming along?
I just wanted to give a shout out to Ricky, because the meetings that the spaces that we've been having and talking about novel design has really helped me in terms of, I'm more of a pantser. So I'm just kind of a discovery writer. It's like, oh, what's going to happen next? I don't know. And that sort of thing. But the other side of being a plotter is someone more structured. I'm starting to appreciate that a lot more in terms of how you can lay out your story so you can see it in a lot of different perspectives, in terms of introspection. If there's that included, you go through your chapters, and that's chapter compensation. And you can kind of, there's certain, I'm not going to get all into it, but anyway, it's great. And I really appreciate him, and look forward to his book.
Yeah, very good. I appreciate you coming up and giving props to Ricky. Also, so between Heidi, Ricky, and myself, we, manage a bunch of spaces throughout the week or throughout the month, and do advocate for people to check that stuff out, just because you're going to get very different things out of all those spaces. Here, this is really just a conversation and hangout, around the topic of writing and authorship, publishing in general, and everything kind of goes. It's not really meant to be explicitly thematic or task oriented. We're just chilling out and having a chat, and that, to me, I think is really a valuable thing to do as well, to kick ideas around. Paula, you got your hand raised. You can unmic. You're allowed to talk.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to interrupt you, though.
Oh, good. What if you had something immediate to say? That happens.
It just popped in my head. I was wondering what the strangest thing anyone has done to inspire their creativity or their muse, because I'm going to tell on myself. I got a pair of little fox ears headband that I'm going to wear whenever I'm writing my fantasy story. There's a lot of animals involved, and I'm thinking that'll get me in and that'll get me in that creative space. That they haven't come in yet, but I know it's a little odd. I was just wondering what else others have done, if that's all right to ask.
It is all right to ask. I'll let Ricky or Pasha go. Weirdest muse inspiring activities or occurrences. What have you got?
Honestly, the thing that you say to me, the thing that I was using as well at my work, because I'm working from home as a freelancer, and to bring myself into the work mood, I have a specific outfit. And for example, when I maybe it's not that something that would create the creative process, because I'm doing that when I'm reading. For example, I recently was reading the Lovecraft, and for those who didn't know, it's the cosmic horror. And I was put a lot of candles around. I put some creepy ambience music, and that bring me in such amazing state where you're not just can read and perceive the information and imagine something that's going on there. You also like drawn yourself into that ambience, into that mood. And that's definitely something that you can use for the creative process. And of course, things like outfit or specific place for the creative activity, or certain music, certain smells you can also use. For example, candles. Every time you put them on, every time when you trying to create something. By the way, I remember since I'm always reading with the candles. I remember one time I was just doing cleaning. It was daytime, and I usually read at the evening. And I just took the candles to bring them in another place, and I just had a glimpse of the smell, just a little bit, and it's right away bring me in the state of the some sort of the that I have in the reading, that I just had a huge desire to just take a book and read something. I just smell a little bit of the candle, so it became really, really associated for me to the reading, the smell. So those things are definitely the things that you can use. And also, one of life hack that I'm using, it's not related to creative process, but you can adapt that technique for the creative process. For me, I'm using that when I want to calm down and relax. So every time when I'm happening to be in a really calm, nice place, for example, I'm on the beach, I hear the waves, there is sunny day, and everything is cool. Or I'm somewhere in the forest, or in some nice field. So every time when I have, or in the sound, by the way, I also like the feeling. So every time when you have that feeling of complete relax, like peaceful mind, I'm just doing like the breathing, like I'm breathe in 5 counts, I hold for 6 counts, and I exhale for like 7 counts, and do it 3 times, thinking about how amazing right now the moment, how peaceful it is. And then wherever I feel nervous and that I need to calm down, for example, recently I was first time in my life playing in theater, and it was my first time on the theater stage. So I played on the camera, on the screen, but I never played on the stage in the theater. And that's the technique that I was using before, because I started before go to the stage, I started to feel nervous. And I used the technique. It brings me in the calm state. Unfortunately, there is a one flaw that it brings you in a calm state, but if you're really nervous, like in 1-2 minutes, you already feel again nervous, so you need to repeat that process. But talking about that experience with the theater, I was nervous and I went out on the stage, and when we were, because it was end of the one act, start beginning on the another, and I was already at the start of the act on the stage, sitting on the bed, and once the light turns on, and once I dropped my first words, I just forgot about everything, and I just was acting just perfectly. And I not just was able to produce all the emotions and all the speeches that I had to say, I also was in the role in a way that wherever will happens on the stage, I will be able to play it. I will be able to, manage it. And so that's the thing that you can use for a creative process. For example, every time when you feel that creativity splashes, you're doing certain breathing. And then when you feel lack of creativity, you can try to use it again, and maybe it will bring some ideas. And but thinking about, because to be honest, I never thought to do something in order to get creativity, to get ideas, because usually, or I'm just starting to drop a lot of random stuff that I have in my head and trying to figure it out, or I'm trying to because when you lack of the ideas, the first thing that you want to do is somehow catch at least something from where you can start to work. Because
Absolutely.
if you stuck on the creating idea, you can really long time not starting doing anything. And for example, recently,
well, hold on before
yeah.
we get into another anecdote, because we usually wrap up in
sorry, I like to talk.
Yeah, it's all right. Ricky, any things that you use in the environment to get inspired, to get creative?
Yeah, I have a marvelous front porch where I live, where there's all.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's my favorite place on earth right now. I mean, it's too cold to be out today, but I've written several poems just sitting there. They just come to me, and I've out of all the stuff I've written in years, I find them very satisfying. So the best thing to do is have a pipe out of doors and enjoy whatever weather, especially if it's like a thunderstorm or something beautiful like that. We have wonderful heat lightning here during the summer. If it's bearable, because it gets muggy as all get out around here. But to sit on the porch and see something beautiful, or to be in fog, or like a driving rain, like a downpour, a fire pit, just hanging out. If you're talking, fine. If there's music, fine. But there's music in the fire. There's a language in the flames. And I'm not speaking any sort of strangeness. I'm talking about, like, it's programming. Like, our ancestors saw fire and rain. There's some sort of connection there with the unconscious. And you know how I am with that, Michael. I talk about that quite a bit, but I feel like it stirs the waters down there, being exposed to this universal imagery, which it's like inspiration. It's like you're staring into some field, if it's light or dark, and you're looking for movement, and then the inspiration strikes you. It just lives in the white noise of rain or the crackling of fire, just to hear the wind go whooshing by, and forget about like all this that's going on, this consciousness. Like, allow unconsciousness to emerge and enjoy it. To me, that's inspiration, folks. I don't know. Maybe I'm a goose. I'd love to hear anybody have anything to say about it. If I'm barking up the wrong tree.
No, I agree with you. And I would say it's very Lynchian, that perspective, when he talks about finding creative motivation through his TM practices. No?
Absolutely. I'm a great admirer of his. I've seen quite a few of his movies, including that traumatizing film Eraserhead, which is, as far as I'm concerned,
landmark first film. Really,
that movie is like a nightmare on film. It really, like, it just never stops. Even the damn soundtrack to the thing is so ghoulish. It's like, it literally sounds like you're in some locker in hell or something. Like, it's unbelievable. So, I mean, that's another thing. Dive into a mind that's just been unchained like that. Like, watch one of his movies. You'll get inspiration, man. Like, the stuff, like, and his photography is mind blowing. He goes, saw these old factories in Eastern Europe, and he takes these gorgeous pictures of just staircases or like vaulted spaces, just staring into that industrial cube that he's trying to focus in on. That's almost like the way the porch is like the rain or the fire pit or whatever. This is almost like the unrain and the unfire pit. Like, you're looking into the cube, mathematical precision in decay. I don't know. I can't think of anything iller than that, really. And the guy's definitely tripped out. So am I. So I'm not going to be judgy. But I dig his terminology, and I wish I could get TM going. Like I'm not good with meditation. My mind is kind of like a roar, you know. I'm, but anyway, I respect the man. I mean, as far as creativity is concerned, right?
Well, hey, glad that we've found another thing that we have in common, our interests. We usually go for an hour, once every other week, right? And we're right there. So as it is, we'll wrap up for today. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me and talking. I would say next Tuesday, Heidi and I have a workshop. We do those once a month, and you're more than welcome to come in and talk shop with us. I don't have the topic or the theme dialed in for Tuesday, but we'll get that sorted out and post it up, and then you can RSVP. Additionally, look up above. I shared a bunch of different tweets up there. There's probably something that you might like or be interested in. From a handful of folks, my own work and what have you not. So again, this Sunday, I believe the January Grand Sumo Tournament starts. That's the one sport I still really follow. Big appreciator. Excellent time to get into the sport. A lot of great young talent coming up. And it's very contentious in the Makeuchi ranks. We've got a couple of people potentially vying for Ozeki ranking over these early tournaments of 2025. We might even see a new Yokozuna crowned at some point this year. It could happen. You don't know. I'm telling you, if you haven't gotten into sumo, you can check it out at no cost to yourself, commercial free on NHK World. That is English language, Japanese programming, broadcast around the world in high definition. I'm watching 15 days straight, half an hour a day. You get your fill of sumo. As it is for today, I do appreciate you coming and hanging out with me, talking shop. We'll be back again, and we'll talk again before too long.